Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructive Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From Pauper Leagues to Top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at PureMTGO.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructiveCriticism.com. Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of MythicCast. I'm your host Spencer, and I'm joined by a special guest today, Mason Clark.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
It's going good, man. So, I have show notes written. You actually don't know what's on them.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I was told, I want to make this more interviewee, and then I said, ask whatever you want, dog. And then you said, have you heard the story of Pandora's box? And then I said, yes. I know the Greek mythology.
I wasn't gonna go into this episode and not pretend that we're not friends. Like,
sure.
Obviously, you're just one of my best friends at this point. So it's like I talk to you basically every day. So you got Mythic. I invited you on the cast because you got Mythic, and I wanted to do something different. Kind of, for one, you got Mythic I think right before the new set came out. So like,
yeah, I got it in Historic,
and it's in Historic, which is now not even a ranked event anymore.
Yeah, it's not ranked now. You can still play like 1,000 gold.
The gold ones, yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that. I've almost actually done that once, but I have practice for an SCG and stuff, so
sure.
It off.
So I'm not gonna pretend like we're not friends. So you're my top 3 favorite co-hosts of Constructive Criticism of all time. And I thought you were sure gonna ask where.
I already know. Number 1, baby. Number 1.
But with that being said, Mason, how did we meet?
Well,
I guess it depends how you define meet.
Yeah. So do you want me to just tell my story?
Yeah. This is about you.
Sure. Okay. So I started playing Magic back in Gatecrash, where my now ex, she wanted to do the pre-release, and so I did it with her. You know, the classic story, boy meets girl, girl teaches guy magic. It's a very common one in the community.
Right.
And and then I played casually up through around Kaladesh. Theros just came out. And I'd play local stuff or whatnot. And then I used to play another game competitively, a card game called Cardfight Vanguard. And I kind of wanted to take a step back from the direction that organized play and everything was going. And so I started playing Magic. And I used to make content for Vanguard, and I loved podcasts. So I started listening to Magic podcasts, specifically more spiky ones. Like I had listened to Patrick Chapin's podcast a pretty good bit. I had listened to LR and that kind of stuff. But, I started searching for more podcasts out there.
Sure.
And so I found the Spike, I believe it's the Spike feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I listened to theirs, and you came on for like a legacy episode, and they said, oh, they have a constructed podcast. I was like, all right, well, I'm out of episodes here. Let's go there. So I started listening there, and then you started doing live shows, and I had done the video stuff and that kind of thing for the YouTube channel, and yours, you messaged you said something along the lines of if you could help message me. And I said, hey, I can make it so that you're not popping in and out screen. I can do this kind of stuff for you. And then that's kind of how we met, and here we are now, so. And
now I have this podcast that's based upon the stuff that we learned to make that podcast better.
Exactly, yeah. It's an always improving thing, That's the joke.
So yeah, we met because, to me, you're kind of my ideal CCMTG listener. When I think back on, the goals of the podcast, what we were trying to achieve, who we were trying to target, you were... And in some ways still are. In some ways, you've grown with CC, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of changed the both the podcast and you. But I want to talk kind of about the process though and the journey. You have this kid. How old are you? You're 17. Is that right?
I'm 26, and I believe I was 24 or 23, depending on the birth dates when we met. So,
I'm anyway, you started this game brand new. You come into it kind of with some experience from other games. Now, a few years later, you are a cadet on Team Nova. You've got yourself an SCG top 8. How does that transition happen? Like, what? I mean, it's not just as simple as, I don't know, I listened to a podcast and, listened to some
Yeah.
other podcasts and then went to some SCGs and then I was, suddenly where I am now. Like, there's more to it than that. So what kind of steps did you go throughout that?
Sure. So I guess I think the thing that makes the most sense is for me to kind of tell you what happened and
Sure.
how I got to here, and then kind of abbreviate it at the end for what the listeners could do. So, like I said, so I listened to Spencer's podcast, all that kind of stuff, and my goal was to play the Pro Tour at the time. My goals changed now. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But at the time, my main goal was to get to the Pro Tour, and so at the time, PPTQs had just started, where they were like the first cycle in. I can't remember exactly, but they were the thing. So it was like, okay, when the next set drops, which was Aether Revolt, I'm going to start playing PPTQs. And so I started practicing. I started playing a deck. And then I started playing just Magic Online like every night with my friend Trey. And we would play from like 8 or probably like 9 or 10, honestly, until about 1 or 2 a.m. every night on the weekdays. And then on Sundays, because he'd be doing stuff on Saturday night. And we just did that for a long time. And then that set hit, and I went and I played a PPTQ. And I think I won my second PPTQ or something like that. My second one when I started grinding.
Sick
or whatever.
brags.
Yeah, I can't. There's something weird about that. I don't remember, but either way. Oh, I remember because I got 9th at the first one, and I was playing Marvel, and my friend won with Mardu Vehicles, and I was like, gosh, I think that deck might be better just because it's proactive, which if you go by bannings, I guess that was a mistake. And then I won the next one because I was like, there's some weird story with that. But yeah, I just like borrowed his deck and I just played it the next weekend and won. So it won like back-to-back weekends in Nashville. But yeah, so I did that. And then I started practicing for RPTQ and I started playing, and I just started making friends and talking to people and learning from people. And then, kind of fast forwarding there, I played every RPTQ since I started wanting to play those when they were available. Had a couple misses. I missed on my first one in like the winning end. It was like top 8, but top 4 went. And so I missed like on my first shot, and just kept practicing and kept learning. And talking to a lot of people. One of the first things I did was I like made a Facebook group in my local area with everyone that I knew was like kind of competitive. And I was like, hey, this is like, I'm going to do this. If people want to come with me and do it as well, I'd love help and stuff like that. And I'd love to learn from y'all. But like a lot of people say we want to be competitive, but we don't really practice. And so kind of led an initiative there. And then it really honestly, like, the long story short is and this is kind of, I think, a big thing for people in Magic, because I met people, learned from people, we helped each other, and we grew. And I kind of just kept doing that over and over and over and over again while playing an unhealthy amount of Magic the whole time. In fact, only recently have I stopped playing an unhealthy amount of Magic all the time. Yeah, I still probably play, more than a lot of people. But yeah, it just, the trick is the way to get here is I basically did that same process, but with different people and learning new things and sharing ideas across like different social groups. And that's how I got to here is, I kept learning and kept improving and taking the lessons. And it's funny, when thinking about this is I just got back from SCG Knoxville, and our friend Trey rode back with us. And so, we were talking, and then we went to our friend's house, and I was going to drop him off at his on the way home. And he was talking in the car, and he was saying how one of the things he really liked and that he had kind of adopted that I did when I first started grinding was I would always ask people like, what did we learn this event? And I would lead like with something I said. And he's like, you were basically learning from their past experiences. Like you would listen to their mistakes and things they did, and then you applied it to your own game.
Speaking of which, my next question is, what did you do wrong along the way, Mason? Like you go through all of this. What were the things that you did wrong?
It's probably easier to say the things I did right. So things I did wrong, didn't play proactive decks enough. Wasn't willing. No, I wouldn't say wasn't willing, but a lot of the times I would not play the best deck at the first. Although that's when I corrected pretty quickly with Teamer Energy. Like I pretty quickly figured out that was good, and then kind of played decks like that near there. I wasn't having the right conversations a lot. I wasn't having the right thought process a lot. I was approaching matchups the wrong way a lot of the time. I was approaching deck building the wrong way. I would say I got the deck selection down and I've been honing that. It's not like I just like turned a corner, but it's a skill that I think I've honed pretty well. We joke now that the new goal for an SCG is reasonable deck. We're reasonable deck gamers, you know, like it's like Urza's good. Well, that's our baseline. So we're gonna at least play Urza, you know, like we're not gonna go and play Soul Herder or anything like that, you know. But I'm not gonna take like a huge risk on that kind of stuff unless I really believe in it. So that was a big one. I'm trying to think of some. I mean, there's honestly, it's kind of hard to put into words some of the stuff, like approaching roles and matchups wrong, rushing through plays. One of the things that has always been true about me is I'm very like quick to respond and quick to like know what my thoughts are, and that gets you a lot in Magic because you miss the little things. And so I would always be done with my rounds and have like 25, 30 minutes left a lot of the times, you know, like within reason, obviously, right? And now recently in the last year, I've made sure to stop myself and like double check things that aren't totally obvious. Like they have no cards in hand and I have a bolt and they're at, 3 life, I'm going to bolt them. But other times I'm like, okay, I'm going to play my Urza, double check. All right, no, I'm not missing anything. Play Urza, even though, I'm probably not missing something. And just doing that little thing has helped a lot with my win rate. And it's something that I was actually commented with a friend that like, yeah, I think stopping and slowing myself down helps me see the plays a little bit better and also helps me stay in the mindset of the game better. So I definitely rushing was a big one. Trying to think. I'm sure there are a lot of other ones. I'm sure you can think of ones because it's a lot easier from the outside, and I'm sure I'm forgetting them. But those are some big ones for me.
This is
that are easy to explain. There are a lot of other little things, but
sure. I think that for me, I've always, I don't know what it is about me, but like when Quentin was on the show, like he qualified for his first Pro Tour before I qualified for mine, and I was always more happy for Quentin's successes and the things that he was doing, and the same with Michael. I had all those years with Michael on the show, and I was always happier for them than I cared about like what I was doing, and I think that that's just true of all my friends. So to me, I don't know that I've ever had like this outside perspective of here's the things that Mason's screwing up. Like
Sure,
I think I'm like, these are the things that Mason's doing better that I want to emulate in myself, and if there's anything that I can do to help Mason, I think that's kind of the approach that I've I mean, I think that we see that a lot in the other activities that we do together. But I do have a question.
Sure.
About this long process. I mean, obviously you made mistakes along the way. Can I?
Yeah, once again, a lot easier to say the things I did right than the things I did wrong. I think the only thing I did right, if I had to say I have one strength as a Magic player, and I think Yo Man actually, he said this, and I was like, oh, that's kind of true, is that I'm willing 100% to trust another person, and I'm also at the same exact time willing to say the first half of your sentence 100% right, and you are 100% wrong in the other half.
Right.
I'm willing to believe someone full-heartedly and also trust myself.
Sure.
So I think listening to people is like the one thing I did right. But
well, I want to go back to a part in your journey where you actually became, a pretty big part of what we do here on the Constructive Criticism Network. And I want to ask, what throughout that time, what did Always Improving mean to you?
Well, so we mentioned how I created content. And one of the things that we always talked about on the YouTube channel back in the day was like, you need to be practicing and like working on improving and stuff like that. So the Always Improving thing really resonated with me. It's like, oh, wow, this is someone else who sees it too, right? That like the nights where we're not playing a league or something like that, we're kind of falling behind. We're like, when we're not practicing effectively and that kind of stuff. So Always Improving to me was kind of like when I started the journey to get to the Pro Tour I guess it's almost 4 years ago. No, it's 3 years ago almost now. I knew it would take a long time. So the Always Improving thing is just kind of like being like, well, obviously you're not going to get there, like sure, you might get lucky and spike an RPTQ or something like that, or spike a GP. But like realistically, you're looking at 2 to 3 years before you have a real shot because there's just so much ground you have to make up. So Always Improving is kind of like, yeah, it's a good check-in, right? Where it's like, obviously you didn't win this Grand Prix, right? Like you have so many things to learn. What can you learn from this event? What can you learn from your friends? What can you learn from your deck selection process? What can you learn from the way you played the game? What can you learn from the way your actions affected your opponent? What can you learn from the way that the media and Twitter and things like that have affected your opponent's deck selection, and just things along that line. So
You actually are going on. You're doing a great job just doing my transitions for me here, Mason.
damn.
Boom. One of the next things I want to talk to you about is you're one of those people that I think is really realistic in their goal setting. You know, how what are your goals for 2020?
Well, so we alluded to it earlier in the podcast, but I recently got picked up by Nova. And so I kind of have like, there's goal A and there's goal like 1A or like B, I guess. Goal A is I would like to end up in the top 32 of the SCG leaderboard this year. Last year I had a good year. I had a top 8. I top 4 regionals. I had a lot of good showings at SCGs, but I only really played 13 SCG events I played 14 between the 2 Envies, Opens, and regionals. I only got to play 14, so I only got to play a little bit less than half of the available things. I was able to finish in 47th or 48th, I can't quite remember. And so I'm like, okay, I think a reasonable step forward is if I'm playing all of these, I'm most likely not going to run. I mean, maybe I run as high, I don't know, but like, I think it's reasonable if I'm playing double the events that I could at least move up 20 points, assuming everything ends about the same kind of thing and the incentives are the same. So my goal A is at the end of the year, if I'm in 32nd place, that was a success for me, along with I kind of have a base goal that is always learning and always in practicing and improving on something, which kind of goes to the always improving thing. So like, obviously, the goal 1 when I go to a tournament isn't to win the tournament. It's to play the best Magic I can. And when I don't play is to learn, and to also learn from when I win a game and I still play poorly. So the base goal is to always learn, because if you're always learning, you're just going to improve in Magic, right? If your goal is always to play well, and you're going to have success that comes from that. So that's goal A. And then goal B is, the Players' Championship. We don't know if it's real yet. It is rumored to still be coming, but we haven't had the announcement yet. So I'm currently, as of right now, between the last 2 SCGs, I'm in 28th place on the leaderboard. I looked at today, or yesterday, I should say, and that's kind of the B goal. I think it's pretty. So this is the thing that I think I'm more real about than a lot of Magic players, is that I think I pretty much know where I'm at a lot of the times, even if that's like deprecating, and even if I don't say that like out loud, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go crush Edgar real quick, see y'all after this round, right? But like, I understand like that I have a lot to learn and a lot to improve on. Like if I get paired against a PV or a Seth Manfield, I'm a big dog, right? Like, it's gonna be really hard to win those rounds. So I don't think I am good enough now at Magic to make the Players' Championship, but I would like to make a run at that. And if I maintain good performances every weekend, I could get the at-large bid at the end of the year. Now, that's literally a year of consistent good performances and a couple good spikes, but that's like a B goal. So
how do these goals of 2020 differ from previous goals that you've had in Magic?
Well, in the past, the goal was to make the Pro Tour. That was like goal, like the big goal, right? Besides the play the best Magic you can, is make the Pro Tour. And so everything was kind of framed in that light. And now we had a conversation about this at one point where it was like during the Thanksgiving week, like the break week where basically everyone was off work, they had like 3 PTQs a day on Moto for Pioneer. And I had a deck that I was pretty sure was a great Pioneer deck, and I had access to other decks and whatnot. And I just told y'all, I'm like, oh, I'm not playing these because it conflicts with my SCG goal. Like if I were to qualify for the Pro Tour Phoenix, I would have to skip an SCG, and that could potentially hurt my top 32 goal or my Players' Championship goal. So I am not going to play PPD. I'm not going to play PTQs because that conflicts with SCG. Now, if I were to qualify via winning an SCG beats, we'll figure it out then. But, my main goal is it's the top 32 thing. So I'm foregoing all that stuff, which 2 years ago, they just would have made fun of me for. So
what did you learn? What did you learn from past goals to make your goals this year?
I wouldn't say I learned a lot, more reinforcing the honesty thing we talked about earlier, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Where I don't think I'm a top 32 SCG player, but I think if I push myself and continue to improve, I could be and or higher. So, I think the placement I got this year is probably a little bit more generous than it should have been, but I do think that that's like the right ballpark-ish area. So,
why SCG?
well, a couple of reasons. One, they're just closer. Two, the Pro Tour system last year was really bad. I mean, it was like kind of a mess. They went going into that year. They said it was going to be a transitional year, but I mean, it was kind of disheartening and whatnot. And honestly, the opportunity kind of arose, right? Like, I only played one SCG event in season one, or one open. I played the regionals as well, but one open, and I top 4'd it. And it was like, okay, well, there's a bunch of IQs near me soon. Then I have the Envy, and I could maybe make 2020 be about the SCG. But if that's the case, I should do this and then go to more opens because I need to set myself up for a buy for the next year, or maybe 2 buys. And I was close to reaching the 2 buy goal, but so it's like, okay, well, I should play these. I'm going to be playing most of these anyways. There's only a couple I'm going out of my way for, like, going to Philly and stuff like that. So if that's the case, yeah, I was going to play all these events. I might as well make a run at it.
Do you care about the Pro Tour?
Right now, can I be totally honest?
Yeah, I'm literally. I told you this is. I'm gonna ask you honest questions, and I expect. Sure. I mean, we're best friends. Like, I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Honest answer, and sounds really. I don't know. I haven't found a good way to say this yet. I am super happy, and part of me is a little jealous at times that my friends are like qualifying for the Pro Tours for like the Phoenix and stuff like that, right? And by jealous, I mean like there's still part of me that wishes I had got to a Pro Tour, right? It's not like a evil jealous. It's kind of like I like had this goal and I kind of failed at it. I had to like reevaluate where we are right now in life. And so I don't know if these new Pro Tours are going to have that same feel and vibe as the old Pro Tours do. I really hope they do. I really hope that's a lot of cynicism on our path, but they kind of have to prove it to me. Kling was even saying that like he's like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to feel. I've played a Pro Tour before. I wonder how this one will feel. So I'm hopeful that vibe is the same. I'm hopeful that everything's there. But honestly, right now, I only care about those because I have friends who play them, and I have teammates now who are going to be playing in that. So like before I was in here, I was, light co-oping a draft with Kling. Like I was a little busy doing some other things, but like I care about that. I've talked a lot of Pioneer with my teammates on Nova who are qualified for Phoenix. And so, I'm invested in this because my friends are invested. But honestly, if I was a spectator, I don't know if I would watch as many rounds as I planned to going to that event. And I think that's true for also the Mythic Invitationals. The last one where Allie made a deep run, I was much more invested in because Allie's my friend. And at the time, I knew my teammate. And so I was way more invested to see her crush it. So, I'm just not super invested in the Pro Tours right now. Or the MPL. I think the MPL is whatever. It's still another transitional year. I'm not a super big fan of the MPL right now. So,
all right. What would you tell Mason 3 years ago?
3 year ago, Mason. Can I tell him anything I want or just one sentence?
You can tell whatever you want, man. As long as it helps him get better at Magic.
Play aggro decks.
Play aggro decks.
I should have played more proactive decks. If I had to tell me something from 3 years ago, it would be continue to trust yourself, play more aggressively slanted decks, listen more, have conversations more about things. Playing games will get you far, but getting conversations will get you further. So you need to put in the game so that you can have like one thing that I think happens a lot is that I think like me talking to Dom tells me a lot more about Modern than me playing 2 Modern leagues. But I have to play the Modern league so I can get to the level to talk to Dom about Modern. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so like put in the work, but also realize that there's diminishing returns on the leagues and stuff like that, and continue to grow like that. Those are the first things that come to my mind would be that kind of stuff.
Don't think too hard because the next question, probably might cover that.
All right, cool. I can't think of anything else in the moment.
What would you tell Mason 3 months ago?
3 months ago? Don't tell Michael Kidd that he's in the point race at the regionals because he'll concede to you and you'll have 2 buys. That's a funny story. So, a friend, we both top aided the SCG regionals, and I was like, I went to prize split. I just also want it to be known, as I agreed to this prize split, that the points matter way more to me than the money does. And so I'm not doing anything. I just want that to be known that I'm doing this because I know a lot of you don't care about the points. And my top 8 opponent was like, I don't care about the points. I just wanted, to come play this with some teammates. They needed the points. They unfortunately didn't make it. I'm going to scoop to you. Good luck. I'll see you at the Invitational. And then my top 4 opponent didn't realize he was making a run for buys. But to help convince him to agree to the split so that the other guy would do that, I said, Michael, we're both in the run for buys right now. And he was like, I'm in the run for buys? And I was like, you didn't know? So he ended up beating me. But like if I was able to win that, I would have buys, an extra buy. So that's how I tell him. But on a more serious note, I would tell Mason from 3 months ago that it's going to work out and that it's going to be good.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things going on and anxiety. And am I making the right decisions? Should I be doing my own thing? Should I even be, doing this? So yeah, that's what I would tell me from 3 months ago.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Mason E. Clark. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheMasonClark. And you can find me on Nova Discord, there to talk, at patreon.com/NovaMTG.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, man.
No problem. Anytime.
You can find me at Spencer13H. You can find the show at Arena Mythicast. You can find our sponsor over at puremtgo.com. Yeah, Mason, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your candor.
Anytime.
I appreciate that you're gonna lose to me here in Smash in about 45 seconds, and get clapped on with some K. Rool claps.
That moment when your friend's delusional, but you're on the podcast, you have to be nice about it.
I know. That's how I felt this entire time. Thank you everybody so much for listening. I'll see you guys all next week.
That's a good one.
Hey everybody, quick moment after the podcast, and really thank Mason for coming on. Mason emulates a lot of what I like about Magic the Gathering, about improving the game and focusing on the things that you can do and not focusing on the things that you can't control. I really appreciate him taking the time to come on and share his experiences with both me and the listeners. If you want to be a part of the podcast, don't forget to tweet your deck list when you make Mythic at Arena Mythicast on Twitter. I look forward to our next episode. It's really fun to get to do stuff like this too, where my friend makes Mythic and I get to kind of do a more in-depth show. If you liked what we did this week, please don't forget to tell us. I had a lot of fun this week and I was really excited to do it. But once again, I am also really glad that Mason got to share himself as he takes on this new step of the SCG Tour, and what he's trying to achieve is pretty sweet and pretty awesome. So if you are tuning into the SCG Tour this year, don't forget to root for Mason. Thanks everybody so much, and we'll see you guys all next week with another episode of Arena Mythicast.